think that I said anything worthy of that level of explosion.
Your rationalization of both sides is, you have to understand, since Kurt's death, there is no both sides anymore, Jessica.
Why did the DOJ take down the study that showed how much right-wing extremism?
What study was that? Which one? The one in The Economist that was sponsored by a group run by a guy in Antifa? That study that has been discredited by the Federalist? You're walking down a really bad alley right now.
Federalist and Fox News contributor Jessica, often criticized for her grading delivery, was completely torched by Greg Gutfeld after she once again leaned on the tired both sides argument in response to a recent fatal attack on an ICE detention facility. On NERC News, host Nurkish pointed out that Democrats and their media allies have once again dusted off their favorite trick, using both sides as a shield to deflect blame. Whenever political violence breaks out, context suddenly vanishes, and liberals rush to point fingers at everyone but themselves. In this exchange, Tarlov tried to explain away the growing wave of left-wing violence with one excuse after another, only for Gutfeld to counter with
and it has become too common to hear words like that, and that is a both sides problem. And last week we went through the litany of times that Donald Trump has used that rhetoric, and the fact that he came out after Charlie Kirk's tragic assassination and said the radical left did this, and then we heard a chorus of "we are at war," and that does permeate the entirety of American society, that they hear that from the top. We don't know
garbage.
that much.
That is absolute garbage.
It is.
Continue. When something terrible happens,
Greg,
when somebody gets murdered, you are saying, "How dare you be enraged by it?" Continue.
No, what I say is, how dare
there is no. I'll give you the both. No, Jessica, I'll give you the both sides.
Greg,
I agree with you. There is both sides. On one hand, you have the hard left, and on the other hand, you have the left.
Why are you?
They're the both sides of the same coin, because you walk into this room and you're not reading it. There is no both sides. You don't have the evidence for that.
That's not true.
You can't say that Donald Trump says this. You guys act on it. You guys act on it. We don't. What do you want?
What do I want? I would like to talk about the specifics of who Vance Bolter actually was, since we fought about that last time. Because you make it out as if this was just that he knew Melissa Hortman.
Let's focus on this thing now. I'll destroy you on that later. But focus on this now. You want to go back?
Focus on this now. This looks like a kid that was inflamed either by the leftist cabal, or maybe he used his own eyes. And maybe he saw what's going on. Maybe there are people in his community who are being picked up by people from ICE. Maybe he saw raids at Home Depot. The common denominator in all of this is that we have young men, usually young white men, who have access to these guns and are carrying out these tragedies. They are nihilists. They live online. And again, do you think it's normal that people are writing on casings anti-ICE?
It's incredible how quickly liberals like Jessica ignore inconvenient facts, such as the identity of a Catholic school shooter, or attacks like the one in Zara, where the assailant openly admitted race was a factor, only to instantly flip the narrative the moment the suspect is a white man and claim it proves their favorite scapegoat is the greatest threat in America. The math never enters the conversation, because per capita reality shatters their storyline, and when the discussion turns to nihilism, Jessica might need to remind everyone which side built its worldview on secular Marxism and tried to disguise destruction as virtue with phrases like reproductive health care. Here's a clue. It's not the side that just held a 5-hour memorial service, preaching the gospel and forgiveness to millions.
Actually did see, Jessica, I did the deep dive on that study. That study was authored by a project that was run by a guy who says he was an Antifa. That is why that whole thing has been scrubbed, okay? It's real simple. You label someone a fascist or a racist or a Nazi, it makes you free to attack them, and that has been the ideology from the start. It's weird.
So why?
No. Let me talk.
Trump does it.
What?
Just tell me why it's okay.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Great. I'm enjoying this.
Okay. You won't be for long. The left calls Trump a hate monger. They have called me a hate monger because I ridicule the left. I ridicule protesters. I ridicule academia, Hollywood, the news media. I make fun of The View every day. I make fun of the UN. Guess what? No one acts on the things that I say because my side doesn't do that. We say people are stupid, we say people are wrong, but we don't say they're evil. That is your game, okay? And then you come and you say, okay, man, this is a mentally ill loner. Well, who do you think does this stuff? It's not Ben Affleck, it's not Tom Brady, it's not even Carrot Top. People who do this stuff are always that way. The question is, who points them in that direction? Why pick ICE? Why pick Kirk? Why target TV stations and put bombs under Fox trucks? Why vandalize memorials? Why kill kids in Catholic schools? Two things can be true. A person can be mentally ill and you can be guiding him to that place in his life. That is how brainwashing works.
This is where the hypocrisy doesn't just border on ridiculous, it becomes almost comical in its sheer audacity. Jessica proudly waves around a DOJ study claiming conservatives are more violent, presenting it as if simply citing a government report ends the debate once and for all, as though statistics issued by a bureaucracy are incapable of being manipulated, misrepresented, or influenced by political agendas. But here's the real kicker. These are the exact same Democrats who, whenever the FBI, DOJ, or D take a step that inconveniences them, whether it's investigating one of their own, exposing corruption, or uncovering evidence that undermines their preferred narratives, suddenly transform into the loudest critics of those institutions. In those moments, the agencies are labeled broken, corrupt, weaponized, and untrustworthy. Yet the second a report conveniently hands them talking points, those same institutions magically become paragons of truth, wisdom, and impartiality. Suddenly, the DOJ isn't corrupt its gospel. Its findings are no longer questioned but elevated to the status of Holy Scripture, to be repeated endlessly in debate as though divine truth has descended from Washington. And we, the public, are expected to nod politely and ignore the glaring contradiction. What we're also supposed to ignore is the obvious reality that these studies are often influenced by academics and analysts with clear ideological leanings, many of whom have ties to left-wing activism, or at the very least, to institutions where groupthink leans heavily progressive. That influence doesn't just creep in, it steers the framing of the data, the categorization of threats, and the selective emphasis of results. In other words, bias baked into the cake. Let's be honest, if the numbers had been reversed and painted left-wing activists as the larger threat, liberals would waste no time dismissing the very same report. They'd brand it propaganda, claim it was politically motivated, or insist it was the product of systemic bias inside law enforcement. They would shred it on live television and run op-eds in every major newspaper denouncing it as junk. But because this time the data appeared to lean in their favor, suddenly the DOJ is untouchable, the report unimpeachable, and anyone who questions it must be acting in bad faith. That's the essence of the game: cherry-picking facts, cherry-picking outrage, cherry-picking institutions. It's not about truth, consistency, or principles. It's about whatever happens to deliver the outcome they want in that particular moment. And the both sides routine is perhaps their most tired trick of all. It isn't about promoting balance or fairness. It's about building a rhetorical shield, a kind of linguistic armor, that allows them to excuse their own side's rhetoric, actions, and yes, violence, by hiding behind the idea that both sides are guilty. They water down the accountability that should fall squarely on their own movement. And that raises the bigger question: do Democrats really believe their own spin, convincing themselves they are operating from some imagined moral high ground? Or do they knowingly play this game, fully aware it's nothing more than a strategic bit of gaslighting, designed to manipulate public perception and deflect blame whenever reality gets a little too inconvenient? Either way, it's insulting. It insults the intelligence of anyone paying attention, anyone capable of comparing their words to their actions, and anyone who remembers what they said the last time the shoe was on the other foot. It reveals a level of cynicism so deep that truth becomes irrelevant and only narrative remains. And that's the part worth remembering, because the second people stop holding them accountable for these contradictions, the game continues unchecked. So what do you think? Is this both sides spin a form of self-delusion, where they've convinced themselves of their own moral infallibility, or is it deliberate, calculated gaslighting, designed to keep power by keeping the public confused? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective matters here. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us keep pushing back against this kind of nonsense. Until next time, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. And remember, The debate isn't over. Just because someone waves around a report, they still owe you the truth.